Thank you. I'm John Mica from Florida, and I guess everybody else, I came in a little late, has spoken. I want to thank Paul for leadership in calling folks together and also calling to the attention of the American people the failure of this administration, particularly the Attorney General. Congressman Gomer, I heard him summarize it, and he's a judicial official from Texas, that this is the chief judicial enforcement officer of the United States. So it's incumbent upon an individual in that position to not only uphold but also to enforce and prosecute the law on behalf of the citizens, people of our country, and our government. And I've been disappointed since the attorney took office, both in his use of that office in a political manner. It's not a Department of Justice. It's been a Department of Injustice in its pursuit and prosecution of selected cases, some with, unfortunately, a political binge and tweak, and to go after folks they shouldn't go after, than to ignore other violators. My role in all of this is, let me just for a minute for my colleagues, some of the newer ones. I chaired criminal justice and drug policy for 2 years, from 98 to 2000. In that work, we tried, working with Denny Hastert, who chaired that responsibility before me, we tried to take some of the drug trafficking and slaughter that was taking place, and particularly in Colombia, get a handle on it. We passed Plan Colombia, and it was basically a zero tolerance. It was a tough enforcement. The Clinton administration ignored it. The Bush administration came in and actually implemented it. We went from a slaughter of tens of thousands of officials to eventually bringing that country, which experienced an unbelievable slaughter, under control. And we did that through some tough enforcement, from some directed resources and assistance of the United States, and also by taking out the bad guys and working with the Colombian leadership to do that. In that process, I stopped on my way one time meeting in Colombia, and we assembled the leaders of Mexico, and I gave a speech behind closed doors. And we predicted that a lot of the drugs that were coming through Mexico at that time, and the violence wasn't as intense, would fall off the truck. And what we were told by our intelligence personnel officers and others, that the narcotics would end up there. And what we found there was corruption from the street level to the president's office. And we warned them that they would be losing their country. And if you haven't seen the facts, if you haven't seen the gruesome details, the decapitation, the mutilation of bodies, the violence, we're in the tens of thousands. The country of Mexico has lost its way. Comes along in March 2009, we did a hearing. And I pleaded with the Obama administration. My quote was to slaughterhouse to stop the slaughterhouse in the south of the border and help Mexico retain control of their country. And then I pointed out also, folks, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Some of you weren't here. When the Democrats had control of this place for 4 years, they did not do a single hearing on these issues. They let this spin out of control. Little attention, no effort was paid. And the United States, in partnership with the last majority, allowed, again, to Mexico spin out of control. I called on that to enlist back again in March 2009. In 2010, we requested, because this administration came in, instead of doing anything, they had a very specific agenda, and that was to go after and promote gun control. You need to go back and look at the clips. They were interested in one thing, gun control, and they said American guns that are being smuggled illegally into Mexico are the problems. If that was the case, probably in some of the states in the Midwest, if it was the number of guns and armaments, they would be centers of violence, and yet they're centers of peace. But that was their thinking. So they concocted this scheme that backfired. It backfired in that it broke federal law. It backfired in that an agent was killed. It backfired in that the drug smuggling was continued. It backfired in that the weapons that we were saying were illegal, causing the problem, we were supplying. It's an incredible scenario. And they have backed and walked away from this. I called in October 27th, 2011, with 8 others for Eric Holder's resignation. I'm back here on June 7th to say again, he needs to unequivocally step down. Not only has he used the office in an improper manner as a chief prosecutor, and I described his abuses there, but when you have a case of this magnitude, and again, and the damage that it has done, not only has it done damage to the credibility of that office and his continued presence in that office, he has also done great damage to doing something about the slaughter of people and trying to transfer the blame to other, again, imaginary reasons and sources. So I'm as intent as ever as saying that he needs to step down. He needs to come clean with the committee and the Congress. This is a very sad chapter for a Department of Justice that we depend on for justice. Yield back the balance on that.